We're in for a treat today. You want a big speaker at a value price? Tons of clarity? Well, today, my friends, we're talking about the Emotiva XT2s. It's a three-way speaker. Coming in at $1,500 retail. However, they're running a 20% off sale. So I'm no mathematician, but I think that's $1,200 for a pair of these things. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and maybe some canned coffee while you're at it. There's only about 20 bags left for this month. It's Colombian coffee.
Back in that bag again. Whoa, yeah. Hey. Back in that, yeah. Tell them to watch it. Now I ain't talking my pockets. Just know we ain't running out the way that we stock it. If I got it, you got it. If I call it, she slide and tell her to mop it. Yeah, I got that on. Then she took that thing off and bring it around. Going at it till I'm on. Put that 90 in a hole. I'm beating it down. I'm back in that bag again. Whoa. Oh, say less. I'm back in that bag again. Yeah. Oh, say less. I'm back in that. Yeah. What you doing? Yeah. I'm back in that. Hey.
All right, my friends, we're going to talk about all the boring stuff like the specifications, but we're also going to talk about the different amplifiers I had on this thing, what they sound like. Of course, the competition, how I think they stack up against the competition. However, we probably need to talk about the elephant in the room, and that's that I love Emotiva speakers. I love the way they sound. I love the company. I love the value. So, I wouldn't really call this an unbiased review because I've never met an Emotiva product that I haven't liked. However, I am going to tell you how they sound on different amplifiers because there are certain pairings, well, that are better than others. Specification. Oh, we're also going to talk about what's different between this series and the previous series. So let's just do that. So the new XT2s have 3 woofers instead of 2 woofers. They have reworked crossovers with better components in the crossovers, including bypass capacitors for the mid-range, which makes things better. They also have a different driver configuration because these, if you look at them, looks like they kind of have a bookshelf speaker on top of, the mid-range and woofer driver array. Okay, so they're different. They also have a different tweeter, a reworked, better ribbon tweeter. And the previous one was just fine by me. But Emotiva uses the folded ribbon tweeter. This one's a 25mm by 32mm across a bunch of different speakers, which is great because you get, economies of scale. It's got a 5¼ inch mid-range driver with stuff that makes it good. And then 3 6-inch woofers. I asked AI what the surface area equivalent of 3 6-inch woofers would be with one driver. 10.5 inches. This is kind of the equivalent of having a 10-inch driver. My glasses are disgusting. Which, by the way, I have an eye appointment today. Gonna get new glasses because my vision isn't getting better. But you don't care about that. You care about the XT2s. They're 45 inches tall, which is a bigger speaker than I'm comfortable with. But turned out sometimes bigger is better. They don't take up a ton of space though. They're 8.5 inches wide, 12 inches deep, and they have a big giant port on the back. They can also be bi-amped or bi-wired if you so choose, if that's your thing. Frequency response is 40 hertz up to 27,000 hertz, plus or minus 3 dB. I don't know if that's anechoic or in room. Sensitivity of 90 dB, which means these are highly sensitive. It's a 4 ohm load, so you can hook this up to a tube amp if you want to, like a 2-watt tube amp. But you shouldn't do that because tube amps are terrible. Just kidding. If you like tube amps, it's fine, but I didn't hook these up to a tube amp. Competition. There's not a lot of it. There's really no apples to apples comparison to the XT2. What I was looking for is a true 3-way speaker, not a 2.5-way speaker. 2.5-way speaker is basically when you have 2 woofers and a tweeter, and one of those woofers is kind of mechanically designed to handle different frequencies. But that's not a true 3-way speaker. True 3-way speaker has 3 separate driver arrays. So you could have multiple woofers, but those multiple woofers are all being crossed over, so they live in their own little area. Most of the floor standing speakers coming in at this price aren't true 3-way speakers. I did find one though, the new ELAC Debut 3. Comes in at $1,200 a pair. That's a true three-way speaker, but, well, it's warm, so they sound a lot different from the Emotivas. The Q Acoustics 5050 comes in at $2,000 a pair. Big speaker. Sounds pretty good. A little bit overwhelming on the bass, though, in certain rooms. Not a three-way speaker, though. And doesn't have a folded ribbon tweeter. Klipsch RP 8000F Mark II. Again, not a true three-way speaker. That's coming in at $1,600 a pair. Those might go on sale, but they're not now. Okay, you get the picture. There's nothing out there that's a three-way speaker with a ribbon tweeter. Amplification and electronics. I was running mostly integrated amps on this that had their own DACs and stuff like that. So the one that spent the most time with the Emotiva XT2s was actually the Weem Ultra, which is a streamer, basically a preamp, with the Weem Vibe Link, which is a little Class D amplifier. Uses the Texas Instruments 3255 amp chipset. Not a ton of power on paper, but this amp has pretty good current. And it was actually a really good combination. Sounded great. And that whole system comes in at $630 if things aren't on sale. Also had it briefly hooked up to the Unison Research, I think, Unico Primo. It's a very expensive $2,000 integrated amplifier. Handmade in Italy. Class A bias on the front. It's a Class AB amplifier, but it's got some yummy Class A bias. I'll just get this out of the way. At lower volumes, that was the amplifier that sounded the best. However, I didn't spend a lot of time with it hooked up to the XT2s. I wanted more of a kind of simple, more of a modern system, and something with a screen, because that seems to be the theme here. I also had it hooked up to the Cambridge Audio Evo 150 and the new RuArc R610. It's a 75 watt Class D streaming amplifier. Class D, I said that, Class D. Really cool looking. That video is coming later, so make sure to subscribe and like this video if you like it. As far as amp pairings go, I thought at lower volumes, the Unison Research Unico Primo sounded the best. At a reasonable listening level, 70 dB up to about 85 dB, the Vibe Link sounded awesome. The Cambridge Audio Evo 150 had the most detail and instrument separation, but that's a $3,000 integrated amplifier. RuArc 610 also sounded very good, but I actually have to give the edge to the Vibe Link. It just had a very natural tonality. Wasn't quite as good as the Cambridge when it comes to separation, but it just had a natural sound and just an easy system. The good news is I think the XT2s are going to play well with any amplifier, but this is a very transparent speaker, so you are going to hear a lot of differences in electronics, including amplifier, I can't say it, amplifier flavor. You're going to hear that. You're also going to hear differences in DACs, stuff like that. I created a nice little test track playlist just for the XT2s. It has I'm Shaken by Jack White. That's a little foreshadowing. Something's going to go on with the video that involves Jack White soon. And not just a song or a record, something bigger. There Will Be Time by Mumford & Sons and Baba Mall. This track is absolutely amazing when you're listening for dynamics, vocal details, and different, like a baritone voice versus, tenor voice. All sorts of cool stuff about that track. Land of Confusion, going back all the way to Genesis. The Choice Is Yours by The Black Sheep, which is a fun song. Santa Monica by Everclear, which is the re-recorded version. And then a bunch of songs. I've been in a bit of an Everclear mood lately. And Jack White and White Stripes. Okay, I'm Shaking, the song by Jack White. Amazing song. If you haven't listened to I'm Shaking, please do yourself a favor. Go listen to it right now. If you haven't listened to a lot of Jack White or the White Stripes, it's like blues punk. It's really good. In the beginning of the song, you hear feedback from an amplifier, sticks hitting each other, and then a really heavy like drum beat come in. It's just raw, in your face. And the thing that I've listened to that song a lot in the car. I love it. But in my living room with the XT2s, it gave off this vibe of not really a live performance because you could tell that it was recorded in the studio, but there was a authenticity about the way it was recorded in a very simple way, I think. I don't think there's a bunch of production on this recording. It just seemed honest, and Jack White's voice was a little bit stepped back. These speakers really don't push anything forward. Great job with instrument separation though, and great job with placement in space. And then at 8 seconds, the guitar comes in, and it's a very simple, repetitive thing. And that's what I love about Jack White. Like Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes, anybody that's learning the guitar basically learns that riff the first day. There's a lot of stuff that he does that you could learn in an afternoon. And it's very simple, so it's not super complicated. But the thing about Jack White that I love the most is how he's better at simple than really anybody else. So anybody can do what he's doing, but they can't do it as well as he's doing it. He comes in about 23 seconds singing, but there's distortion in his, not his voice, but the way it was recorded. But the vibrato with that distortion is just something else. And I didn't pick up on that in the car, probably because there's 60 dB of road noise. But in the house, there was just so much texture to it. And it's a simple setup because it's him playing guitar, some female backup singers, and then the drummer. And I think that's it. But the XT2s did a great job of kind of setting up that stage, and everything was cleanly defined. This song on the XT2s reminds me of Kind of Blue, not from the music standpoint, but from the placement standpoint. And I think that's a bit of a gold standard when it comes to a record as far as soundstage. You gotta listen to this song, it's amazing. When the female backers come in, there's at least 2 female singers, and you can hear the harmonies, and you can definitely hear 2 voices being blended together. Now, I also had these kind of pointing straight out into the room, so I didn't have them towed in at all. In the past, some of the Emotiva speakers could come off being a bit bright at times. Not necessarily fatiguing, but a little bit intense. And if you towed them out, then it wasn't really an issue because you could tone down that treble a little bit. But with these, I mean, I left them pointed straight out, but these are a little bit more cohesive, more linear from the mid-range into the treble. Anyway, it's an easygoing speaker as far as placement goes. And the soundstage was just off the charts. Wonderful. Wonderful. There Will Be Time, Baba Mal. The beginning of that song, Baba Mal comes in. He's got a very baritone-y voice, low voice. But there's inflection in his voice, and he's not talking in English. But there's also breath sounds, and there's stuff hanging out with vibrato. Again, one of the greatest things about the Emotiva speakers is air. And hearing those subtle details as far as a lot of initial attacks with percussion, but mostly it's in the vocal region where you can really pick up on a lot of details that you probably didn't hear in that song before if you're listening to a soft dome tweeter, or really any tweeter. It's just at the price, there's no other speaker that offers the level of detail that the Emotiva speakers do. This song also has female backup singers, and they're like, what is that? 43 seconds they come in. And then at 56 seconds, you have the drums come in that goes, and it was, I don't know what it's, I mean, it's all separated out. It's just addictive to listen to. This song is also very dynamic. So it starts off slow, and then there's a slow build to a bit of a payoff, a bit of a climax in the song. At 2:23, the song really takes off. The thing about this song is it'll fake you into turning it up for the first, 2 minutes and 23 seconds, and then it just really takes off. A lot of speakers, I'll be listening to it kind of at my normal listening levels, which is about 70, 75 dB. And when that part in the song takes off, it gets loud, quick. And a lot of speakers that do okay in the 75 to 80 dB fall apart quickly at that 2 minutes, 23 seconds. That part of the song is also There's a lot going on. So a bunch of different instruments coming in at the same time. That instrument separation gets lost on a lot of speakers, even good speakers. But the XT2s kept it all separated out. You still see where everything is at. Lane to Confusion by Genesis. This is the 2007 remaster, which I don't think is very good. I think the original recording is better than this one. Anyway, I think this one's compressed. Loud. They made it loud. The drums come in immediately. And I wasn't ready for this track. I mean, I put the track on the playlist, so I knew it was somewhere, but I wasn't ready for it to come in with this much bite. And it just grabbed you and shook you by the shoulders and said, "Hello, I'm Phil Collins. Come in and listen to my song." The takeaway for me on this song was the synthesizer. I can't say that very well. It's the synth. I never heard it that prominent. And it wasn't like in your face at all. But I've heard that song, I don't know, 500 times. And I never picked up on the synth at the beginning being so separated out. That's what I love about good, clean speakers that have a lot of clarity, is you just pick up on these subtle details about a song that you haven't heard before. Okay. Not a very good recording though. Very flat recording. Not super dynamic. Okay. I haven't heard this song for a long time, but it's The Choice Is Yours by the Black Sheep. And there is a bass, so a stand-up bass going on at the beginning. And the coolest thing about, I don't even think this was recorded very well, but with the XT2s, you could hear kind of that hollow, vacuous space that's in the upright bass. Do, 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 do. This song was actually used in a Kia commercial. So Kia had a really cool advertising campaign where they had a bunch of hamsters that were doing stuff with their cars, driving their cars, and they were like urban hamsters. So they were dressed up, I don't know, like urban hamsters dress. This song was used in one of the commercials, and it's a really fun song. In the beginning, there's some female singers that go, "Here they come, y'all. Here they come, y'all. Here they come." And it was very nicely layered in. Listening to The Choice Is Yours by the Black Sheep on the XT, it made this track sound audiophile because there's like a bunch of different layers. It's really good. And then at 18 seconds, he comes in and he goes, "Yo!" And again, on a good speaker, there's dynamics, but there's transparency into the recording. And so when someone really comes forward and there's something louder in the track, it gets your attention. It jars you. And if you're listening to a speaker and it's maybe a track that you haven't heard and you don't get that jump scare, like almost like you're watching a horror movie, I don't think there's transparency and truth from that speaker. Anyway, if you haven't listened to this song for a while, turn it on. A lot of fun. Santa Monica by Everclear. The re-recorded version. The first recording of this, not great. The thing I love about this song is the texture to the electric guitar and how it just stops. I can probably get away with this. All right, let me turn this up. So that first na-na just stops. So after the na-na, it's like somebody turned off the sound. And that was super cool because the rest of the, guitar, I don't know if you'd call that a riff. The rest of it kind of blends together. But it's these little finite details about just the stop that you hear on the XT2s. And then at 4 seconds, it goes, da-na, chicka, chicka. I love that chicka, chicka on that guitar. A lot of fun. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's like you could see the guitar pick on the electric guitar. I guess that's really a good way to describe these speakers, is it's believability, but it's just truth. I don't feel like I'm listening to a song. I feel like I'm seeing the song, if that makes sense, because there's such a picture painted in your head with these things. Okay, and then at 7 seconds, it goes, ring, and just hangs out there. Well done. All right, let's talk about my final thoughts. With my love of Emotiva aside, I don't think anybody can argue that this isn't an outstanding speaker at the price point. I think it's more linear than previous Emotiva speakers, while still maintaining that house sound of Emotiva. And if you don't know what the house sound of Emotiva is, it's clarity. I love the previous generation, but the previous generation, they seemed a little bit cooler through the mid-range. While this newer line, the XT series, specifically the XT2s, I think the XT2s are a little bit more natural sounding than the XT1s, even though I love the XT1s. They're upstairs right now. Permanent. They're in permanent residence upstairs. But with the XT2s, you don't immediately know that it's an Emotiva speaker until maybe you hear some of that top-end nuance, that top-end air. Then you're like, ooh, sounds like an Emotiva. Here's the deal. There's not a speaker out there that can hang with this one. And even if you're not into that razor sharp detail production, how it's presenting itself, this is a great speaker. There's nothing that even comes close to it at the price. At $1,200 right now, I mean, this is a stupid value. And if you've got the room, oh, one thing, you may not like the looks of these speakers. It comes with magnetic grills. It's the typical Emotiva black vinyl covered box. If you don't like that, well, then that's not the speaker for you, because you can get it in any color as long as it's black. It does take a little bit of getting used to see what seems like a bookshelf speaker built into a tower speaker. But once you hear that first guitar note or the harmony of female backup singers that you've never heard before, that you never realize, oh, there's two people singing there and they're in harmony, you're going to be hooked on this speaker. I mean, it's next level good. I love the previous generation. That was really my jam. I think this speaker, the XT2, is going to appeal to a wider audience. It's just outstanding. If I could have one speaker for the rest of my life, this would probably be the speaker. It's just so easy, and it gives you so much detail. It doesn't do anything wrong. Oh, I will say this. The amplifiers at lower volumes, to get this speaker to be pretty dynamic, you need a different amplifier. And it was the Unico Primo. So that was the amplifier I thought sounded the best at lower volumes. At normal listening levels, all the amplifiers sounded good. I liked a little bit more heft in the amp though. Obviously the Emotiva amplifiers are going to sound great on it. But the VibeLink did a really great job, which is kind of funny to see the juxtaposition of these big speakers with this little tiny like amp and preamp setup. I think it's kind of fun. Roark did a great job too. But if you have a really thin amp, it may not be the pairing for you. So older Class D stuff, NAD stuff, sorry to say, not going to sound good with the pairing of this speaker. Oh, one more thing I will say about this speaker. So right now I'm getting ready to edit this video. And you know what I'm thinking in my head is I want to go listen to the speaker more. And I don't have that experience with everything. So once I get done with a video or something, I'm like, okay, that's going to be boxed up. But literally right now, I was thinking, oh, I want to go listen to some vinyl on this speaker. I just want to relax and listen to music. And I think that's a pretty good way to wrap this video up. It makes me want to listen to music more. Oh, also, buy some Cam coffee. We have about 20 bags left of this flavor. And then, oh yeah, next flavor is coming out. This one's Colombian. Next month, I think it's going to be, well, I'm not going to tell you. I will link the coffee in the description. You should try it out. I'll ship it today.